Awesome.
Awesome.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. So how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Are you?
I'm surprised that anybody is curious about what I have to say. So.
Well, it's interesting because I think everybody's curious, but you're doing so many things right now.
Forgive me if this video gets.
You're gonna get boring.
6 views. No,
I have a feeling
boring.
you're not gonna get 6 views.
All right, fair enough. I'll try.
But you don't have to. The whole
point is not to try.
Exactly.
Yes.
There is no.
I like what you said before. Yeah. Anyhow.
It's the zen of it all.
Just about having a conversation.
It's all about having a conversation.
And actually, now that we're starting to talk, I'm thinking that I might have watched a couple of these now.
Well,
so I'm watching how you're speaking, and I'm remembering that.
It happens. I generally avoid being on camera, which keeps me safe, but.
That doesn't seem fair. No.
It's so much saying. Well, it's much more interesting to see people try to figure out what the hell I'm talking about than it is to watch me talk.
Here we go.
I'm just not that interested in talking. And of course, anyway, whole other conversation. So you're very busy.
Thankfully, in the middle of August, it was not like this.
So you were out of work in August and desperately looking for?
Not necessarily out of work, but certainly, feeling like let's go, Toronto and Toronto Film Festival and just I was excited to get Call Me by Your Name and Lady Bird and Hostel's going, and now we're more in the middle of it all. So
do you feel like that? Are you somebody who likes to just work all the time as much as you can?
I like to stay busy. I think I'm learning that, what with, Luca putting me in a movie and getting to work with Scott Cooper or Chris Nolan or Greta, I feel a certain, not pressure, but a certain desire to keep working with great filmmakers. But I'm also really like a theater kid. Theater stuff's what I was passionate about first. That's how I got into all this. So doing plays and things of that nature, performing live, that provides the medium to take up time more than if you did like a TV show 8 months a year, or like 6 movies a year or something.
So what was the first play you did? What is the first thing you did?
First play I did was called The Talls, and it was at a theater company called Second Stage in New York at their Uptown Theater on 77th and Broadway, and about a family of tall people and a father who's running for city comptroller in like Oakland, Northern California, and the family of tall people goes about their lives and not really in the most productive of ways. So
had you been auditioning for years before that, or a minute before
Sort
that?
of. I think it's a consequence of growing up in New York, which I guess is one of these coastal cultural centers, I guess, with LA, where there's the avenue to be auditioning for things when you're younger, but also I come from a showbiz family, so it wasn't too foreign, the idea of smiling in front of a camera as big as you can when you're 8 years old, holding up a Cheez-Its box or whatever, what have you, the product of the day. But thankfully, and I think it's probably a good thing, that wasn't I didn't really have a lot of fun doing that. And I wasn't very passionate about it, as I guess I don't know what 11-year-old is passionate about that kind of thing. But then I got to LaGuardia, which is a performing arts high school in New York, and the Fame School, PA. It was a movie called Fame.
Yes.
Okay.
Were you dancing and singing outside of the street?
Just for those my age that maybe are watching this and wouldn't know that.
They wouldn't even have seen the series because there was the movie and then the series.
It started as a TV series, right?
It started as a movie.
It started as a film, but then there was an iconic TV director, right, that took it over.
Well, it was Alan Parker. It was a British director who made the movie.
Film. Okay.
And famously with Irene Cara and all that stuff. And then the show happened, and I think it was Debbie Allen was big creative force in it, and one of the teachers in the show and all of that stuff.
Oh, so it must have been Debbie Allen, yeah, because I went to a Q&A with her a couple of years ago. I remember seeing a Q&A with the director of the television show, and then remembering that she had been a teacher at PA too. Anyhow, so when I got to LaGuardia, that was really... There I saw that acting is to be taken seriously and not self-seriously, not to a pretentious or pushing other people away degree, but rather just the harder you work at it, the better you'll be at it. And I got to see Hostels last night for the first time, and it was just a surreal experience because I got to watch Christian Bale work for a month and a half and see how he went about it, and then just watching that film last night, and he gives such a powerful performance that's so restrained. Like he really never. He doesn't falsely reach for anything once, so...
but he can go big when he wants to. He goes to both fields. It's kind of funny. That is an incredibly restrained performance. And Hostels. It's what drives that film, yeah.
Yeah.
I think. But you know, sometimes he's just funny and silly.
Yeah, I mean, when we were on set, I asked him one day, because we had 3 minutes before setups, and I said, American Psycho is one of my favorite movies, and I said, whose idea was that? And he said, whose idea was what? And I was like, well, whose idea was it to do the thing? And he was like, what are you talking about? I was like, and then I think I phrased it almost exactly like so. I said, there was a performative quality to that performance in that movie that I have not seen in any of your other films, and I'm curious if that was the director that led you in that direction, or if and then, he had a really kind of fascinating response, included a story about, linking with the director in New York and having a meeting and sitting down and saying, I think this is a comedy, and I think it's a really dark comedy, but I think the tone of this is weirdly comedic, and she agreed. And but it's weird because everybody in that movie buys into what's going on. Sorry, I'm not usually talking about American Psycho, but you said to just make it like a conversation.
Well, Mary Herron is an interesting director that way, because her films are...
Wait, what's her name one more time?
Mary Herron.
Yeah, okay, right, exactly.
And she makes these films that are really on that interesting cutting edge of reality and hyper reality. Mm-hmm. Almost all of them have that kind of...
And there's a weird urban, early 2000s, black pinstripe suit, reckless Wall Street quality to that movie that you don't... Or, I don't know, I'm not the biggest of cinephiles, but I don't really know any other movies that tonally are that, weird and, businessy, creepy. I don't know.
No, they're not a lot. Until, in some ways, McKay's movie last year, a couple years ago now.
The Big Short?
The Big Short has some of that. But
The Big Short is, fun and exciting, and they're great cuts, and it cuts from Steve Carell in a strip club going, you own how many houses? And she says, 4. And then it cuts to him running through the airport. There's a bubble! There's a bubble! When I got to work with Steve last year, I brought that scene up to him 7,000 times. He was so sick of hearing about it by the end of the movie.
So do you just love acting? Are you
I just love
fascinated by
acting. That's what's surreal about even talking to you, or the idea that people are going to watch this. And actually, it gives me pause and makes me a little scared, because I even watched things when I was speaking when I was 19, and I go, you moron. And I'm just so happy that I have 2 more years of experience compared to that version of myself. And I know I'm going to watch these when I'm 25 or 27 and go, you moron. Or God forbid, I'm like, yeah, those were the glory years. And then I'll pull on my cigarette and drink my whatever poison.
But the thing is, when you are whatever age you are, is the age that, it's like, I have this conversation about films all the time with filmmakers, is that, they're these films that take 10 years to happen, they're films that take overnight, and there's something about that timing that just is right.
Yeah, and and certainly that was the experience on Call Me By Your Name, because when I met with Luca, and it would have been James Ivory at first as well, that was 4 years ago at this point, so I would have been 17 when I met with Luca, because I was just starting my first year in college at Columbia, so, and this certainly has been the project that has resonated with audiences the most, and of everything I've done, is the most wholesome piece of work that I'm most proud of, and yet, as this is, a lot of things I've been a part of, like Hostels, which obviously I don't have a huge part in, but that was something I got cast maybe 2 weeks before I got out there, and it's not the kind of thing. Sometimes it is a good thing to have a 3-4 year process, and even I spent a week upstate with James Ivory, and we watched A Room with a View and Morris, and we read through Call Me By Your Name with a French director named Julien Landais, who just did his first feature in France, and it's a period piece. Whose name I unsurprisingly can't remember right now, but so yeah, it's just been thrilling at a young age to be a part of these projects with people that I've been studying and admiring, and are 10,000 times more talented than I'll ever be, and it's certainly not by design. A lot of it's luck, because I've been up for the bigger projects that are, I guess, more commercial oriented, because I guess when you're focused on that foot in the door, a foot in the door is a foot in the door, so however it is, whether it's on a billboard or on MTV or whatever, or a Sony Picture Classics movie, and very gratefully I got to do this indie path, I guess, and I don't feel the pressure now. In fact, I feel a tremendous sense of patience towards whatever will.
So it's kind of happenstance that this series of films kind of.
Well, it's so important, I think, for a young actor to. That's my grandma upstairs. No, I'm kidding. I don't know what that noise is. It's just, God, to have good agents is so important, and I have such tremendous agents, and there's no pressure to do a number of projects or to work with well-known people or to make any money. It's simply to challenge myself as an actor and to tell stories that are worth telling and to work with directors and know what they're doing, because ultimately you can give a great performance, but it's really the director's medium and the director who hands in a good film. So, you know, the Call Me by Your Name, the role is, you can't pass on it to work with Luca, can't pass on it Army, can't pass on working with him. The Social Network, formative movie for actors, for just young people my age. Yeah, definitive, like tonally, like the social media movie. Michael Stuhlbarg. I saw Michael in The Pillow Man when I was 12 years old. Martin McDonagh's play in New York on Broadway. So, and then I did these projects, Call Me by Your Name and Lady Bird, or Call Me by Your Name, then Hostels, then Lady Bird, back to back to back. But there was no design that they were going to come out in this short amount of time, and certainly there was never any expectation that they would be received with the warmth that they have been, even in my short experience. And I've been very lucky, but I've seen like in a very contained way, but I've seen like the hype machine kind of take hold of a crew and a cast, and then it doesn't pay fruition. So.
Well, if you're wearing spandex, it's a lot easier to get caught up in that.
Yeah. And I didn't even like that, because I haven't even been a part of any project like that. So
does everything feel like it's another, just, you're kind of like still finding other experiences? And I mean, like Lady Bird, it's a relatively small role. This is a lead, really.
Right.
As you said, Prisoners is Hostels.
Prisoners is a great Hugh Jackman movie,
yes,
directed by Denis Villeneuve,
who is a great director and a great guy.
Yes.
Next on your list, I'm sure.
I met him when I got to speak French a little bit and be like, this is the thing that maybe separates me a little bit. No, I'm kidding.
But is it like kind of like, okay, I'm going here, I'm trying this, is there a method to the madness at all, or at this point, or is it kind of like I just gathering good activities, good opportunities?
I think as a life philosophy, that's certainly the idea, that it's like shopping for experiences or something. At least being in many a room and many a space where, you know, most of the people are, you know, twice my age and are more business behind the camera oriented, and that's what I'm seeing is becoming a large part of this job at a young age. But that's simply, you know, if one has the approach of, like you said, just to kind of treat it like a collection of good experiences, then I think that's the healthiest approach. As it relates to the work, it's not like it's not the random force of the universe as much. I'm lucky in that I love watching movies. I love seeing plays. Even plays are maybe even a little bit easier for me to read than screenplays. But when I read like a screenplay that really makes sense, it's very, very clear to me. Like Beautiful Boy is something, when I read it, that's the film that I did with Steve Carell that I guess nobody watching this would have any clue about yet, so I'm speaking without context, but that's the kind of thing when I read.
Watch it again next year.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But when I read that, there wasn't the experience of calling an agent or a friend saying, wow, I read this really great script, I can't wait to do it, but rather like, okay, this is how is this going to happen? Because this can't not happen. And that was kind of the film with Call Me by Your Name, and hopefully projects going forward. But I hope this is the kind of thing I get to watch a couple years from now, and I can say, wow, I had a disciplined approach to it. And, you know, like the people I admire, like Christian Bale or Gary Oldman or Saoirse or Emma Stone or Jennifer Lawrence or Scarlett Johansson or Mahershala, you know, just picking the right projects and keep challenging yourself.
So do you have a method at this point in terms of your acting? Do you have a process that you are committed to, or are you kind of... You
know, I was very fortunate at LaGuardia. We were exposed to a lot of great Q&As at a young age with a bunch of tremendous actors like Al Pacino and Jake Gyllenhaal and Marissa Tomei, and they would get asked that question sometimes about their process, and people would give really succinct answers. But the one I always related to the most was when Edie Falco was asked it, and the great actress from Nurse Jackie and Sopranos, and somebody said, you know, Edie, what's your process? You know, how do you prepare for a role? And she said, you know, I have no idea, and it terrifies me each time, and I just do it. And that's really the feeling I have too. And there's like an ode to technique, and I have a lot of admiration for technique and Stanislavski / Juilliard / North Carolina School of the Arts based acting, and really, you know, serious stuff. But the most exciting thing for me as a viewer is spontaneity and truth and like raw emotion, and movies like American Honey, or I just saw Good Time by Josh Safdie, which I thought was awesome. That's that, or Lady Bird, the performance there she gives, or when I watch Call Me by Your Name, I really like the authentic brotherly nature between these two guys, and that it feels like if you were watching it from a distance, it would look like two people hanging out and not like a movie.
Don't forget Benny Safdie.
Josh and Benny Safdie.
Yes.
The Safdie brothers. Yes, by the Safdie brothers. I should have said it that way. And Benny, if you're watching this, man, I'm sorry. And he wouldn't be watching this in 1,000 years, but
he might. Ben is a fan. Ben. We have like a weird love fest between the three of us.
Really?
So, yeah. Though I did put his name and Ben on something, and he was
Benny.
It's Benny, for God's sake.
And N-Y, not N-I-E.
That's right. Exactly.
And yeah.
So does each of the directors make a big difference to you?
They make all the difference. I mean, particularly when you're playing like supporting roles on film and on camera in such a way that, if you're on stage as a 15-year-old or 14-year-old, you can have a supporting role where you come in there like Mercutio or something and just really tear it up and do a great job. But simply by nature of how big one's role is, but then the director, you really I felt like I realized at a young age, even like on Homeland, which is one of the first TV shows I did, that it's really all in the director's hands. Or like a part like Interstellar, and like Interstellar, I have a smaller part in that movie, but it's like one of it's maybe after Calling By Your Name, like my favorite project I've been a part of, and just the story and to get to be an ensemble member in that regard, which is some great advice Steve Carell gave me once when I was nervous after a scene, where he said, it's good too to be it's good to be worried about being a good ensemble member.
Yeah.
And but sorry, I got a little off track there. But certainly it is just working with the right directors. Like you think how different like an Alejandro Iñárritu movie would be from an Xavier Dolan movie, would be from a Denis Villeneuve movie. And yet, you can imagine some actors fitting in all those domains. That's why I'm almost a little suspicious of doing things like this, because I feel like I'll be able to float from project to project, as I have for the last 4 or 5 years, without, like Michael Barker, who's, the head of Sony Classics. When I met him, they had already bought this movie to distribute it. Right. And he said, what else have you been in? And I said, well, I was in this movie with Stevens. And he said, oh, yeah, no, I saw it. And I said, I did this play called Prodigal Son in New York. I saw that. So. There's a tremendous thrill to that, and like I said, a suspicion that this kind of stuff will make it more difficult, but it's the name of the game, and the game you got to play, and if you want to finance big indie movies, then...
Well, you'll be happy to know that some directors watch these and cast off of them. But
yeah, I know, that's another terrifying thought, that well, because it's true, even like actors I'll work with, or, Michael Stuhlbarg is a great example, because I saw The Pillow Man by Martin McDonagh in New York, and I was 12, and I guess I'd seen A Serious Man, the Coen Brothers movie, and I just seen him in 1,000 things, and also he looks like a lot like Joaquin Phoenix. He's one of my favorite actors, so there's like this double edge of intimidation. And we did the table read in Crema for Call Me By Your Name, and he was like asking the most specific of questions at the table read, to which Luca had answers, to which Michael was satisfied in response. Like, I'd never seen that. Most actors are like myself, you ask a question, you get an answer, you're like, okay, I can like kind of, all right, I can make sense of that. And Michael would ask a question at the table read, and Luca would give an answer, and Michael would go, that's exactly what I needed, thank you, and I'd be like, what? So I remember going back to my apartment thinking, I got to act with this guy. There's that very intimate scene with the father and the son at the end of Call Me By Your Name, and then I YouTubed EPK or Michael Stuhlbarg EPK, or like interviews like this, and I don't know, I think it's very humbling for anybody to be in front of a camera like this and just trying to like wax poetic on the spot.
But we try to make it the same. But the thing is, I think that the weird thing about being a movie actor is that the camera captures you regardless of how much you're acting or how good your performance is. A lot of it is still you. Absolutely. There's no avoiding it. Mm-hmm. So I think in some ways, the thing about these that people like watching is that it's you're to whatever degree you're seeing the person that's in there.
Right.
Right. Though Christian actually...
And then this will cut and I'll resume my British accent.
Exactly. Well, that's Christian came on. They still get comments about Christian's accent. They're all shocked that he's British. Still.
Oh, when you did this with Christian? I gotta go back and watch that.
And Christian was great. And he was like very thoughtful about acting and about what he does and what's important and what's not. And very nice and happy and everything else. And yet people are like, oh, he's not moody. Oh, he's not British. Like they're shocked sometimes. But that's why I'm here.
So these things go.
That's the whole point of it. So how was Miss Stevens' experience? Speaking of people, we can shout out to Julia as well.
Yeah, have you done this with Julia?
We have.
Miss Stevens, that really was kind of the like jumping off point for me in many ways, because that was the first really meaty role I had tackled on film, and I was going to do Prodigal Son, which is the play I did in the spring that I was the lead of, but that was very much like it was a bit of an anxious experience, because it just felt like a real test where I'd been watching Birdman for a year. That's the year Birdman came out, and embarrassingly, I always like to watch that Edward Norton, Michael Keaton scene where Michael Keaton comes on for the first time. Edward Norton's like the ultimate actor you'd never want to be, because he's plays such a curmudgeon in that film. But just his mastery of the script, all that, it was just so inspiring. And so yeah, watching movies like that and or Spotlight, I guess, came out that year too. Anyhow, I was inspired to make a great movie, but then and Miss Stevens very much felt like a script and a part that was to be knocked out the park. But then he gets time to do it, and certainly in that film, there's the climactic monologue at the end, and there's like a big scene with Lily Rabe, who's excellent in the film. There's a kind of a confrontation between my character and hers at the end, but besides that, it's very contained. Or those scenes work better if the earlier scenes are contained, which is something I was trying to keep in mind shooting it. So it was like, and the character's supposed to be uncomfortable, so you don't mind it as an actor if you're feeling like that in real life. But I left school for a year and just felt like, okay, you've been saying you want to act, let's see what you're about, kind of thing, and then looking in the mirror. So it was, and Julia can say it too, like, I had such an amazing time working with her and Jordan and Lily, both Lily Reinhardt too, but it was not like, it was very much a tense and anxious experience. Like the scenes in the film, like the monologue or the confrontation at the end, where there is an explosion, there was almost a catharsis to it, something similar to stage work. Literally, the Death of the Salesman monologue in the movie is supposed to be a part of a drama competition, so it is in the context of a theater piece. But those days were like a release. There was some therapy through the work, or like the dream, I guess, that one has as an artist. But the other days, those scenes, weirdly, because watching it, those are the ones where maybe I'm more contained and not doing much, but those are the ones where, like, it was way more difficult. So.
Are you very judgmental on the work as you're doing it?
Not as I'm doing it. There's a great quote by a nun who turned into an artist in Northern California, and I'm forgetting her name, but at the Andy Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh, it's a big quote on the wall that says, creating and analyzing are separate processes. And I like that a lot. So it doesn't mean analyzation isn't beneficial to the process at some point, but when you're working, when you're creating, you just have to be focused on that. And that's something that LaGuardia and the School of Performing Arts and that high school experience really brought me, because especially when you're performing in front of other kids your age, and it's such a formative, weird, awkward time, if you can get up there and fail enough times consistently and just be bad, and just be like really bad, then it just releases you a little bit more to not analyze as much. Because if I used to say, and I guess I still say, except I'm a very bad practicer of this philosophy, the most important part of an audition is the second you step out the door. Because if you can step out the door and you treat yourself kindly, then the next time you go in there, you're going to be way more free, as opposed to if you kill yourself if you're hard on yourself.
Right.
The second you step out, you're going to clam yourself up more the next audition you have. So I think there's a process of that acting each time. Like, there is going to be, you are going to be hard on yourself. Certainly I'm always hard on myself, and certainly I like myself in too many things where I've been hard on myself that it'll be hard to abandon that now without being a masochist or.
Do you watch yourself? Do you watch the movies always?
Yeah, I know like even like Army really doesn't like watch himself, even though he's brilliant and about everything he's in. But I don't get like a kick out of it. But I think it's almost important to know what your habits are or how to get better. Yeah. Certainly, I like working with actors a lot and then getting to watch their stuff, either during or after. Like even when we were shooting Interstellar, I watched Bernie for the first time, which is weird because now I've seen that movie like 12 times. That movie is Jack Black is so incredible in that movie. I don't know why it's not like everybody's favorite movie. Anyway, McConaughey has like a weird role in that movie, and So I got to pick his brain on set about that. And it's inspiring when you're working with someone and you see the, body of work they have and the kind of stuff they have as precedent. It just makes you excited to be working on whatever you're working on. And that's part of the anxiety of being a young actor, certainly working with the awesome filmmakers that I get to work with, like Luca, or to be working with Army, or Steve Carell. I had this feeling too, is when they have so many good things in the can, you think, oh my God, I do not want to be the blip on the radar, the project they were a part of that wasn't received to the extent and the warmth that their other projects have been. It's a scary feeling.
The Lady Bird people were all talking about the fact that everybody was connected to theater.
Yeah, it's
ended
true.
up being a big part of that experience.
Literally every actor in that film has been, save for Odeya Rush, but she's one of my favorite parts of the movie, has been in a New York, major New York stage production in the last 2 years, produced by Scott Rudin, except Lucas Hedges. His was I'm forgetting the name of it. It's probably like in some blocked out part of my mind because I read for a role in it. Not his, but another one. So I probably blocked it out.
I will forget that show forever.
Yeah, I went to see it. It was very good. It was very good.
Do you sing and dance?
Yeah, I do.
So you could do Hello Dolly. You could join the Hello Dolly.
Beanie's doing Hello Dolly.
I know,
right now.
Beanie's
she's not
very
doing
happy.
She's not doing it for much longer. I can dance okay. I not very well. I can get away with it. The best like musical theater advice I ever got was it's acting on pitch. So I like that a lot.
Would you like to do that? Is that like, do you want to do everything, or you kind of
sort of? I mean, yeah, because it always seems like you're putting a mountain of expectation and pressure on yourself, and you want to like mimic someone's career. You talk about the specific projects you want to be a part of, and rather I just feel like anything that's good or anything that's halfway good, and I can imagine 1,000. Like watching La La Land was so inspiring, and it was to go see with my grandma. I took her in an Uber to Brooklyn. She thinks the thing like everyone's private driver. She really takes to heart with Uber. I don't think she gets how simple it is, but we went to see La La Land, and like it felt like an ode to her like life and cultural experience as an audience member of American art and the American songbook, and with songs written in a way that the American songbook sounds. And yet, I watching it, I couldn't help but like salivate at the idea of, oh my God, if someone could do a contemporaneous, movie musical that, with maybe like a more contemporary leaning soundtrack underneath it. Can you imagine if Damien Chazelle directed that? That'd be absolutely insane. So.
Or somebody else. Damien will do it. That's the thing.
Else. Yeah, he's probably not going to direct another musical thing. And
I think Luca will do a musical before it's all over.
I think, you know what? I agree, actually.
To it.
I agree. Certainly after Suspiria, I can totally imagine him doing a musical or something of that nature.
So it doesn't sound like celebrity is a big part of your mindset or your interest in all of this.
It seems like that's the kind of thing that's so out of one's control anyway, that the idea of being able to decide that or plot that out is foreign. And yet, it is important to me to like do things like this also because I've watched so many of these things on YouTube, and I've watched 1,000 Inside the Actor Studios and programs of that variety, and felt like I've learned from them or at least been entertained by a lot of them. And it's tough. I have like a really fantastic actor friend that I felt like didn't do or really had an aversion to doing this kind of stuff, and then it becomes more difficult as you get older because then it's harder for people to put films around you, and it doesn't mean you're treating it like a business, but stories that are within integrity artistically you still want them to be seen,
right.
So it feels like a necessary part of it. Yeah, exactly. And I feel no sort of, anyway, I'm 21, so this would be ridiculous, but I don't feel any sort of cynicism or I don't feel like jaded to doing any sort of press stuff or talking about myself.
But is the idea of being a celebrity or being loved in that way and people, the people seeing you on the street and all that kind of stuff, is that attractive to you, or is that kind of like the side?
I think it would be like naive to say it's attractive because I guess the roadmap is just so like not healthy, and if anybody with a Netflix subscription that obliges their documentary bar would know that, but like it's the thing that they say the biggest fear in America is stage fright, and I don't relate to that at all. and sometimes I'll be doing the Q&As with Army and Michael, and I feel like we're all comfortable up there, and it just seems like a part of it, and one that it would be just so unappreciative and out of touch to be like, that's no fun, or
yeah. But there's a difference between that and I want to be a movie star.
A big rule for me, maybe not in acting as much, because acting is simply about the truth of the moment and the honesty, but just even for things like this, or let's say for a Q&A, is don't be boring. As an audience member, I'd rather somebody to fall out of a chair, as I have at a Q&A before.
I saw a video of that, I think.
Than to be bored. To that degree, would I rather the things I'm going to be seeing, or would I rather nobody see them because I'm hiding in the shadows?
You haven't answered the question, but that's okay. I'm just saying I'm just.
Sorry,
it's about you. Rambly. It's about your ego. It's about you. I mean, I'm just really asking whether, because it feels like, and not in a bad way, and not in a I don't like this, I don't want this kind of thing, but that you're not. That's not your track. That the track of yes, of course you want to keep working, and yes, you want to have enough success to have people help fund movies with you and everything else, but it doesn't seem like being famous is going to be your get off.
Again, this really is the honest answer, is that it feels so out of my hands, and this is the type of movie that I really hope and I'm confident a lot of people will see, but it's also it is very specific to, it's not like the Avengers or something, it's not going to be in 1,000 theaters. So it would be naive or something for me to be this is what I'm stepping into. And even if I wanted to play into that more, there would be no avenue for it, because one doesn't decide these things, it just happens,
Yeah.
And Army would be the first one, he's given me many a talk about that. I mean, that's why he had an aversion to studio filmmaking at one point, wanted to go into more independent cinema, because he felt like he was being, with great financial support by way of commercialism or advertising, whatever, being put on a pedestal to be the next golden boy, and he just felt hollowed by it to some extent. And even talking to Steve Carell about this stuff a lot. He had an incredible experience in The Office, and then I think, and then he made a ton of bigger films that I think now he would rather do, smaller films that maybe not as many people see, and certainly those are the kind of films that I am doing. So, and to the idea that all my buddies are still in college, the way I try to think about acting too at this age is take yourself seriously, present professionally, but have fun with it still, and it's a job and you're making money, but it's not like being 28 or 30 or with a family or wife and kids to support, but rather day to time, just try to enjoy it.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.